Hey, Happy New Year. It is 2025, so I want to make a quick video here as we embark upon a new year, and also January 20th, you all know what happens. We're getting a new president. Well, not an entirely new president, a president we've had before, the 45th and now the 47th president of the United States, Donald J. Trump. So I don't know about you, but I was absolutely ecstatic when I found out Trump won, staying up all night November 5th watching that. So I want to talk a little bit about four big reasons why Donald Trump's election in the, and I'm kind of looking at my notes here, but I want to speak to those four big reasons why his election matters, why his victory matters for America, and honestly for the world. So first of all, I'm just going to kind of outline those four big reasons, and I'm going to try to keep this video under 10 minutes. I know that's difficult. I've already burnt a minute, so let's go. The first big reason is policy. Again, our presidents, they sign bills into law, they create positions, or rather not positions, but they fill positions within the administration. But ultimately, you know, they veto laws, they sign bills, they are the commander-in-chief. It's their policy that really guides everything. So the first reason, of course, is policy. The second one, again, speaking to one of the things that I just said, was the president assigns leaders into the government bureaucracy alphabet soup. So it's the agency appointees. It's the bureaucracy, and it's who Trump is going to appoint. Certainly that is a huge benefit over Joe Biden or a lot of the Democratic candidates that could have been in there, like Kamala Harris. I don't even want to imagine some of the appointees she would have put into her cabinet administration positions. So again, number one is policy. Number two is the administration, who he's going to put into that. So it's basically checks and balances on the deep state, that sort of thing. The fourth branch of the government. And then the third reason is really just it's a miraculous political comeback. It's truly spectacular how Donald Trump was able to come back and do something that not many people gave him credit for. Going into the primaries, it looked like perhaps Nikki Haley was going to take it, or even Ron DeSantis. I think those would have been perhaps where the money would have been. But again, the fact that Trump was able to make such a huge political comeback is really unprecedented, at least in modern times. And then finally, the fourth reason is pride in America. So again, Donald Trump's victory matters for those four big reasons. Number one, policy. Number two, who he's putting in his cabinet and picks for the administration and those government agencies. The third reason, it's just an unprecedented, insurmountable political comeback. It's really quite spectacular. And then again, the fourth reason is it really does kind of harken in a new era of pride in America. So I want to speak very briefly on these, and perhaps I'll make another video and touch base. I just got out of the gym here, but yeah, I just wanted to make a quick video. Let's talk about policy. So I kind of broke down policy to four things: foreign policy, energy cost, American energy independence, basically tax cuts and incentives for that, and border security. Again, it's a new year. Again, Happy New Year, everyone. Unfortunately, a lot of us woke up and found out something on the news that we didn't want to hear. No one wants to hear. It's a horrible tragedy. We saw a what looks to be potentially terrorist attack. I don't know if it's officially been declared that, but in New Orleans, when a truck ran into a crowd of people celebrating New Year's, and of course, as we found out, unfortunately and tragically, 10 people lost their lives, dozens and dozens of more injured in that. Of course, the police, luckily, were able to take out the perpetrator of that heinous and egregious crime. So again, border security, a very important, and we'll kind of see what happens as more, news comes into that story. But in any event, let's talk about foreign policy. I think foreign policy is one of the great victories of the Trump administration. Trump 45, we'll see what happens with 47. But again, Iran, checks and balances in Iran. We have Russia, attacking Ukraine, and before Russia attacked Ukraine, Vladimir Putin was saber rattling. But Certainly during George W. Bush, that administration, Putin was very much an aggressor. And then, of course, he took Crimea and Georgia, I believe, during Obama's administration. Georgia might have been toward the end of George W. Bush. You can fact check me on that. I'm just kind of going off the cuff here. But the point is, Vladimir Putin never did anything under Trump. So a show of strength is what matters, and it's kind of that Reagan-era peace through strength foreign policy that I think Trump brings. It's that sense of he's an unhinged cowboy. No one knows what he's going to do. My nuclear button's bigger than your nuclear button type of attitude, and he certainly commands respect. And what we don't really understand in America here is that so many of these dictators, whether it is Vladimir Putin, whether it is the Ayatollahs in Iran, and whether, it's the, Kim Jong-un in North Korea or Xi Jinping in China, a lot of these world leaders, they only understand strength. It's not like they're sitting down at a table, 12 Angry Men style, trying to negotiate in a very civil way about what is, mutually beneficial to everyone. What's mutually beneficial to them is that they stay in power and they don't get blown away by the United States. And I think Trump represents that threat that, hey, if we try anything, we don't know what Trump's going to do. So there is definitely that peace through strength mantra that Trump has, that he's simply a wild card, unpredictable. And even if there is a 5%, a 1% chance, do you really think these foreign leaders are going to try to continue to invade, like trying to invade Taiwan? I can't speak, but who knows? But certainly foreign leaders respond to that. Energy costs, energy independence. We need to be energy independent in this country. We forget everything we buy and consume. It has to be moved. The cost of energy is factored into everything. It's factored into our daily lives with the utilities in our house. It's factored in to construction, cost of moving goods and services. Again, if you've seen a construction site, they're bringing in tons of pipe, tons of lumber. They're bringing in all sorts of building supplies, and that's going to impact the cost of homes. And again, I've said this before and made a video about it, but think about how costly it is for young people to buy homes now, right? So again, if we become more energy independent, that is a cost that can be reduced. Let's have exploratory drilling. Let's have hydraulic fracking. Let's do these things so we're not completely dependent upon, the Middle East. And of course, we know, I think it's, and again, fact check me, but I believe it's 20% of the oil and about 25% of the world's natural gas goes through that tiny little strait, the Strait of Hormuz, which is between the Arabian Sea and the Persian Gulf. It's just south of Iran. So look that up. And again, why does that matter? Well, because if Trump is tough on foreign policy, you're not putting into the risk, the price, the cost of risk if tensions are high, right? So if there's stability, costs go down. It's less dangerous, right? It is less dangerous. That's why the second things become legalized, the cost tends to go down, like if you look at prohibition and whatnot. A third reason, of course, under the foreign policy issue would be his stance on tax cuts. Again, who doesn't want more money on your pocket? And I know we can certainly look at, government doing some good with our tax dollars, hopefully military spending, hopefully some infrastructure, those are good uses. I would even say some social safety net programs are not bad. But again, I think overall, I think no matter where you fall on the economic spectrum, I think we do see that there is waste in government spending. So with the tax cuts, hopefully that'll incentivize businesses, incentivize growth, and probably incentivize gross domestic product and innovation. So we'll actually see our tax revenue increase through tax cuts because the base is larger, even though we're getting a slightly smaller portion of that. And border security, again, I've spoke to this, but certainly Trump's victory represents not having open borders that we saw with Kamala Harris as a border czar, and Joe Biden certainly didn't really seem to be that bothered by, open borders and everything. So hopefully we'll get that under control, whether we build the wall or not. I think certainly we will see ICE and Immigration Customs Enforcement have a little more leeway and a little more discretion with actually doing their job and protecting the border. I say I'm at 10 minutes, but I'm going to keep going and see, see how close I can get to this. So let's move on. Checks and balances on the deep state. I think Donald Trump's cabinet picks are great. His border czar, Homan, I can't think of his name right now, but that guy seems like he's going to be very tough and very stern on the border. Of course, we have Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk heading up this new Dodge committee, which is going to do a lot in terms of keeping a check and balance on government and at least keeping an eye on them. Also, Tulsi Gabbard is in there. And RFK Jr., right? Who could forget RFK Jr.? So hopefully his cabinet picks are going to be a little bit stronger than perhaps what he picked the first time around, now that he's more informed and has a better idea of what he's doing. I think that's a situation where you get it through experience, and again, even someone like Donald Trump, who's, almost, how old is Trump? Close to 80 now. And he was, 74 or so when he was elected the first time. Again, experience, you're still learning into your 70s, right? So I think Trump learned a lot. I think Trump learned a lot about how big the deep state is, or as he would say, kind of the 3-word slogan, drain the swamp. And I think his administration, bureau picks, cabinet picks are going to really reflect that. So we'll see what happens there. Political comeback, again, the man was just, went through the entire gauntlet, right? The impeachments, the January 6th nonsense, and of course all the trials against him, all the criminal trials, hush money, all this, what was it, the hidden documents, or, not hidden documents, but did he mishandle documents, or so classified documents and whatnot. And all this, I think, is really a political witch hunt. And I think we saw that through the Biden administration, especially because none of this really reared its ugly head the second time around until Trump announced that he was going to run sometime right before, I believe, the midterms of 2022. Gosh, was it October, November 2022? I think Trump announced he was going to run. And then suddenly all the wheels were set into motion and all the wheels were greased to get that machine running against Trump. And of course, the infamous mugshot, who could forget that? I believe it's the first time in history where the United States has had a president or former president where they've had a mugshot. And just the optics of that. And I think that really rallied people too. I don't think that really discouraged people, and a lot of people on the opposing side, on the Democrat side, were saying, well, how can you vote for a convicted felon? Well, again, third world countries, they weaponize, politics and their respective Department of Justices to go after their political opponent. And of course, the assassination Trump. And I really think when Trump... maybe it wasn't the smartest thing to do if someone's, taking shots at you. But certainly I think when Trump stood up at that podium and shouted, fight, 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 and pumped his fist in the air, that was a rallying cry. And that photo has become so iconic. I mean, we don't know where we're going to be in 100 years, 200 years, or as a country, we don't, obviously none of us will be alive, but again, we don't know where we'll be as in terms of a country. Will there be a United States in 100, 200 years? Who knows? But I can tell you whether there is or not, and let's pray to the Lord that there is a United States and that we'll survive and the grand experiment continues. I think we do understand that photo is going to be, and already is, iconic, and that photo will be studied throughout the ages. And depending on how this presidency goes, and I'm very optimistic. I think it's going to be a great presidency, here in 2025, 2026, 2027, and 2028. So we'll kind of see what the next 4 years brings, right? So again, major political comeback. It was absolutely spectacular. And also, I think going on social media and embracing that, and kind of, his previous on-again, off-again nemesis of TikTok. I think it was wise for Trump to go on TikTok, to go on podcast. He was on The Undertaker's podcast, 6 Feet Under, and then he went on Elon Musk and a lot of others. And what's kind of really cool about this is he was listening to his son, Barron Trump, and Barron, of course, is much more in touch, more than I am, even as this old 40-year-old man, right? But I think Barron Trump was in touch with where the young people were at, where the, late teens, 20-year-olds, even the early 30-year-olds into like perhaps even the late 30s, early 40s, where their eyes and ears are. And Trump was wise to go on the Joe Rogan podcast, to embrace TikTok, to do that. Because, if we look at it, even though the electoral count, and I forget what it is off the top of my head, but even though Trump got about 300 electoral votes, in the popular vote, it was pretty close. We're talking, 2, 3, 4 million votes difference. So, again, this wasn't quite the blowout election that we would have liked it to have been. It's a victory. Let's take it. Let's embrace it. Let's be happy we got the victory. But we also have to keep in the back of our mind and be conscientious that, hey, we got a midterm coming up in 2 years. And again, this election was pretty close, at least in terms of the popular vote, right? And again, the last thing, and I'll try to make this last one real quick, but it's great to see Pride in America. I think we have, at least since I was a kid, been taught, or at least had that ideology that America is a not great place. We're founded on the quote-unquote evils of colonialism, this post-colonialist attitude, this Howard Zinn type of ideology, for lack of a better word. This idea that America was a stolen country, that we embraced slavery, that we did all these horrible things. And again, I'm not going to defend every dark spot in our country. Certainly, we're human beings. And whenever human beings form institutions, whether that's at the family level or whether that's entirely at the national level, there are going to be negative things. But we can't destroy America because we do have our dark moments. We still have to be proud of our country. And that's not to say we can't criticize America. That's not to say that we can't point out her mistakes and errors and where there's room for improvement and growth, right? We need to do that. Absolutely, but I don't think we need to certainly go as far as like what we saw really come to, the kettle boiling over in 2020 with the BLM movement, the Antifa movement, when everyone was kind of locked in their house, or with the COVID shutdowns. And then I think it really became popular, and they were even teaching this stuff in the classroom, this postmodernism, post-colonialism. America's bad, you should be ashamed of America, the whole burn it down, and that's not right, and that's wrong. And I think Trump's victory says, hey, we're through with that. Yes, America has a lot of room to improve. There are people that are going through horrible poverty in this country. We've seen a breakdown of the family. We have mental health crisis going on. We have deaths of despair. We have the opioid epidemic, right? I could go on. And certainly, yeah, sure, racism does exist still in our country, right? But these are not reasons to hate America. These are reasons to improve America. And I love the fact that I think Donald Trump is embracing that. And one of the greatest things that Trump did, and I think, I think he's been humbled. I truly do. Because he said he's not just the president of, his supporters or those who wear the MAGA hat, right? He's everyone's president. He's America's president. And I think that's great. So that's why Trump's victory matters. I'm very optimistic as we are on the start of a new year here. And I hope that Trump can steer the ship of America in the right direction, because, we've had some dark days under Joe Biden, the Joe Biden-Kamala Harris administration. And we just need to move beyond it. Whether, again, we're talking about inflation, so some of the mandates that he wanted to push through. And again, we don't necessarily need to dwell on it, because, again, I think what this Trump victory is, I think it's very good for America. So, again, thank you very much, and take care, and God bless, and have a great new year. Thank you.